Recording in progress.
I love the computer program there. I think I've mentioned this before on if y'all, I'm a big Star Trek fan. You know, if I had to choose between Star Trek and Star Wars, I pick Star Trek, even though I've got more Star Wars memorabilia kind of thing. But in Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, if y'all don't know anything about that, spoiler alert, it's where they have to go back in time to 1986 and save two humpback whales, bring them back forward in time to their time, which is 22nd or 23rd century, and to propagate the species again. They managed to find two humpback whales that one of them's pregnant, you know, kind of thing. So anyway, they bring them back and in order to propagate the species because there's apparently a whale civilization out there that's destroying the planet because they're not getting a signal back from Earth because the whales are dead. So yeah, that's Star Trek 4 in a nutshell. But the Enterprise, well, not the Enterprise, in Star Trek 3, the Enterprise was destroyed. So they're in a Klingon vertebrae that they've stolen, and they've gone back in time. And in order to transport these whales, they've got to convert one of the holding areas, holding bays in this Klingon vertebrae, so it can hold water and hold these two whales. That tells you how big this ship is. Well, in order to do that, they've got to find some kind of barrier to hold the water in. Well, y'all remember Scotty? Y'all beam me up, Scotty. You know, which is never said in Star Trek, by the way. Scotty, beam me up, or to beam up. Anyway, they figure out that they can go to this manufacturing company and get transparent aluminum, which is prevalent in their time frame, but not heard of in 1986. And so they go to this company, and of course we're not supposed to mess with the timeline. Well, and of course Scotty's answer is, well, how do we know he didn't invent it? So anyway, they go to this place, and you got to think 1986, the computers back during that time. Well, the head of that company is sitting there, and Scotty says, you know, what if I told you that we could, the only thing this company has is like 6 inches thick. Well, that's too thick for what they're, so Scotty goes to him and asks, you know, what if I told you that you could build the same thing, but it'd only be 1 inch thick? That's transparent aluminum. He said, would you be interested in that? Oh, of course. Use my computer. So he sits down at the computer, 1986 now, computer. And Scotty from Star Trek sits down and goes, computer. And, you know, nothing, because there's no voice recognition during that time. And, well, both Dr. McCoy is there with him too. He sees this little thing. Of course, it's connected with a wire. And he picks it up and he hands it, you know, here, Scotty, you know. So Scotty picks it up and goes, computer. And you know, and of course, nothing happens again. And the owner of the place says, just use the key. And so Scotty proceeds to type in, you know, finger pick this for transparently. Anyway, I say that because I love the computer voice that pops on when we get to it. So yeah, so that was we started 5 minutes early. So where we are in the study, I didn't look at we're in 2 Kings and 2 Chronicles. Just letting y'all know we're gonna be flipping back and forth. But we over the last few weeks have gone through a lot of kings in the north. But last week at the end of the class, there was a name that popped up that we're going to hear about today. Her name is Athaliah. Now, Athaliah is the daughter of Ahab and Jezebel. Now, Ahab was a coward and evil in his own right. Jezebel was just downright evil. She intended to do harm. Ahab didn't always intend to, you know, it just happened. He just was very unlucky. Hello. Anyway, they had a son named Well, they had several sons, but anyway, Joram, okay. They also had a son named Ahaziah. Now, at the same time as all this is going on, over in Israel, or this is Israel, but over in Judah, down in Judah, they've also got a Jehoram. A Joram is the son of Jehu. Okay? And Jehu married off Joram to Athaliah in order for what we believe, it's never mentioned in scripture, but they believe it was for a international merger between the two, kind of a peace deal. So the son of Ahab, or the daughter of Ahab and Jezebel, marries the son of Jehu, and his name was Joram. Ahab also has. Yeah, because they're all familial, everybody, these are common names. It's like Michael, every time I mention or introduce myself as Michael, and, oh, there's a Michael in my family. That's my second cousin's dog's former owners. Michael was only the most popular boy's name for like 75 straight years. So it's common. Okay. Now Ahaziah is, well, we'll get into that. We'll get into that here. Anyway, just remember Joram is married to Athaliah. Okay. Joram dies. That's where we're at today. Okay. At least I think that's where we're starting.
We're in second.
Ahaziah we're in Second Kings. Yeah, I'll get to it here as to where we're in Second Kings. Ahaziah is the son of Joram in Israel. Ahaziah is the brother of Joram. I'm sorry. Ahaziah is the son of Joram in Judah. Ahaziah is the brother of Joram in Israel. Four different people.
Sounds like a town in Orange.
Yeah. And everybody's named Michael and John. So let me go ahead and share our screen, figure out where we're at today. One other thing before we start. Last week, Jane mentioned I made an error and I went on and corrected it, but it was a time error. Shalmaneser III, which I mentioned last week, talking about Jehu. One of in fact, the earliest biblical name that we have in extra biblical records is from Shalmaneser III, who's the current king of Assyria right now. And they had what they call a black obelisk that was found. It's from the 9th century, which mentions Jehu. And so we understand the timeline. Well, I put 541 on the screen. It's 841. I missed it by a digit. Okay. So, because they were right beside each other. So please forgive me for that. But 841 is the time. So you can understand kind of where we're at time around the 840s, 830s BC. Okay. Now, back to our regular. Okay. Presentation method. So, yeah, I'll make sure I'm there. Yeah, so we're 2 Kings 11 or 2 Chronicles 22. And like I said, we're going to be, these next few weeks, we're going to be jumping around a lot because it's not very chronological. The way the Kings work is they did south, south, north, north, south, south, north, north kind of thing. And I'm trying to keep it chronological. And Chronicles is all the Psalms. So 2 Kings chapter 11, verse 1. Now when Athaliah, Ahaziah's mother, remember Athaliah was married to Joram, saw that her son was dead because he died in a battle when he went to war. When he went to battle, allied with Joram in the north, and they died. He died in battle. She set about to destroy all the royal family. But Jehosheba, King Joram's daughter, now this would be a daughter by a different mother. Okay, because remember, Athaliah's married. Ahaziah's sister, that would be his half sister, they had different mothers, took Joash, son of Ahaziah, and stole him away from among the king's children who were about to be killed. She put him and his nurse in a bedroom. Okay, so a lot of names there. So just remember Ahaziah, Joash, the grandson of Athaliah, and also the grandson of basically the great grandson of Ahab and the grandson of Joram. Does that make sense? Not really. We'll go with that. Okay. He gets taken away. He's really young at this point. Athaliah is killing all the rest of the male heirs because she wants her son to be Joram. Thus, and now this is Jehoshaphat, the daughter. Thus she hid him from Athaliah so that he was not killed. He remained with her 6 years, hidden in the house of the Lord, while Athaliah reigned over the land. So he's in the house of the Lord, which means he's in the temple. Who was the last person we know that was reigning?
Samuel.
Samuel. So, and this would be the last place Athaliah would look because she wasn't about the temple at all. Remember, her mother was Jezebel. It was all about the Phoenician gods, the Tyre and Sidon gods. So, but in the 7th year, Jehoiada, now that's the priest, okay? Jehoiada summoned the captains of the Karaites. Karaites were a special guard. They'd be, I guess, the most the easiest common modern example would be the Swiss Guard at the Vatican. Okay? They're hired, they're loyal. Okay? Some of the captains of the Karaites and of the guards had them come to him in the house of the Lord. Okay. Now, in the Chronicles, chapter 23, you don't have to go there. It just says that he made a compact with the commanders and the hundreds. So he hired them. Like I said, jumping around a lot. 2 Chronicles 23. Azariah, son of Jeroham, Ishmael, son of Jehonan. These are the captains of the guards. Okay. See that Azariah? That name is very common. So let me start that over. This is in 2 Chronicles 23. Azariah, son of Jeroham, Ishmael, son of Jehohanan, Azariah, there's a second, son of Obed, Maaseiah, son of Adiah, and Elishaphat, son of Zikri. They went around through Judah and gathered the Levites and from all the towns of Judah and the heads of families of Israel, and they came to Jerusalem. And now back to 2 Kings 11. He made a covenant with them and put them under oath in the house of the Lord. Then he showed them the king's son. So he has hired these people as loyal, like the Swiss Guard. So, and then after they have sworn their loyalty to the Levites and to the temple itself and guarding everything responsible to the temple, then he brings out this young boy who's now 6 years older, who they all thought was dead. He commanded them, verse 5, this is what you are to do. 1/3 of you, those who go off duty on the Sabbath and guard the king's house, another third, being at the gate sir, and a third at the gate behind the guards, shall guard the palace. And your 2 divisions that come on duty in force on the Sabbath and guard the house of the Lord. Now, there's a reason he is putting their duty schedule as such. Reason being, spoiler alert, he's about to bring forth Joash, the rightful king of Israel. Athaliah is in charge. She had all the other kids, all the other killed. And then her son was killed. So she is the queen mother, but she's in charge. And she's evil. He is wanting these sworn guards to all be present. So at a duty change, when 2 of the 3 divisions are in the same location, this is when it's going to happen. So he's got his, and then the third one's going to be somewhere else. Shall surround the king. Notice he calls him the king, each with weapons in hand, and whoever approaches the ranks is to be killed. Be with the king in his comings and goings. So this is the Secret Service now.
But this king is just a boy,
He's
right?
just a boy, probably around 12 years old. Somewhere, yeah, preteen. The captains did according to all that the priest Jehoiada commanded. Each brought his men who were to go off duty on the Sabbath, with those who were to come on duty on the Sabbath, and came to the priest Jehoiada. So they're all during a shift change, and all of them are present in the temple. The priest delivered to the captains the spears and shields that had been King David's, which were in the house of the Lord. Aha. The guards stood. Now remember, all of the special ones, the gold ones, were taken. They were given away or taken by, nations that had come and taken them. So these are the ones that were actually used in battle. These were battle. The guards stood, every man with his weapons in his hand, from the south side of the house to the north side of the house, around the altar in the house being the temple, to guard the king on every side. Then he brought out the king's son, put the crown on him, and gave him the covenant. They proclaimed him king and anointed him. So all of this is happening very quickly. 6 years have passed. Athaliah's reign of terror is still going on. They bring out this preteen boy, say, "You're king." They crown him, and now he's got this guard of thousands that are going to be with him every moment of every day. Imagine going to the bathroom. They clapped their hands and shouted, "Long live the king!" See, it is up there. When Athaliah heard the noise of the guard and of the people, she went into the house of the Lord to the people. Remember, she's just hearing all this. She doesn't, she never goes to the church. So you don't know. When she looked, there was the king standing by the pillar, according to custom, with the captains and the trumpeters beside the king, and all the people of the land rejoicing and blowing trumpets. So you can imagine to her horror, and I say to her horror, not her surprise, but her horror, that there is the rightful king. She usurped the throne when she thought all the rightful heirs were dead. And now she's very quickly realizing upon this the sight of this young boy that everything's gone. Athaliah tore her clothes and cried, "Treason, treason!" She's trying to make everybody think it's a trick. Then the priest Jehoiada commanded the captains who were set over the army, "Bring her out between the ranks and kill with the sword anyone who follows." Remember, she had gone into the temple, so they can't kill her in the temple. Come on in. For the priest said, "Let her not be killed in the house of the Lord." So they laid hands on her. She went through the horse's entrance to the king's house, and there she was put to death. All right. Just means they took her out of back door or side door. Right. Jehoiada made a covenant between the Lord and the king and the people, and that they should be in the Lord, that they should be the Lord's people, and also between the king and the people. Then all the people of the land went to the house of Baal and tore it down, his altars and his images. They broke in pieces, and they killed Matan, the priest of Baal, in front of the altars. And then Second Chronicles adds, Jehoiada assigned the care of the house of the Lord to one of the priests who David had organized to be in charge of the house. So just a little remembrance there. Apparently Athaliah had let things go. She set up these altars to Baal and had set even a prophet of Baal in charge, a priest of Baal in charge of everything. So, things have gotten bad in Judah. This is 2 Kings 11:18. The priest posted guards over the house. He took the captains, the Karaites, the guards, and all the people of the land. Then they brought the king down from the house of the Lord, marching through the gate of the guards to the king's house. He took his seat on the throne of the kings. So all the people of the land rejoiced. And the city was quiet, and Athaliah had been killed with the sword at the king's house. Now, I briefly stopped there. So I was wrong. I was 7 years old. So anyway, so he was taken as an infant. Anyway, Yeah, I jumped ahead of myself there. You know, I started off the class with a Star Trek analogy, and now I'm going to make a Star Wars analogy here. Athaliah was like the emperor of Star Wars, just evil, out to kill all the good people, just evil. And all of a sudden, Jehoiada, who is Luke Skywalker, comes in, and well, he's more like Obi-Wan Kenobi. Sorry, Ben Kenobi. Alec Guinness. Does that help? Okay. He comes in and totally freaks out the emperor and ends up taking out the emperor's main person. And then, making a long story short, Luke Skywalker is the last Jedi left, and he's in charge now. So, but they're good guys. Okay. Verse 21. Jehoash, or Joash, depending on who's writing it, was 7 years old when he began to reign. So I'm wrong there. I apologize. He was not preteen. So he was taken as an infant.
7 is preteen.
Well, yes, but I say anyway. So 7 years old and he's king already. Now on to chapter 12. In the 7th year of Jehu, Jehoash began to reign. He reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Zibiah of Beersheba. So we see that Jehoram was married to a lady named Zibiah as well. And that was their daughter. So Joram was married to Athaliah, and that's where Ahaziah came from. But Joash came from Zibiah. And Verse 2, Jehoash did what was right in the sight of the Lord all his days, because the priest Jehoiada instructed him. Nevertheless, man, why do they always say but? The high places were not taken away. People continue to sacrifice and make offerings on the high places. Now, these are not the Baal things. These are the other personal family gods, and you know, when they had intermarried and things, these are their gods, kind of thing. These altars are still set up, but not the big ones like Baal. So he did good, but he didn't get rid of all. Jehoash said to the priest, all the silver offered as sacred donations that is brought into the house of the Lord, the census tax, personal redemption payments, and silver from voluntary offerings brought into the house of the Lord. Let the priest receive from each of the donors and let them repair the house wherever any need of repair is discovered. By the 20, where'd that come from? But by the 23rd year of King Jehoash, the priest had made no repairs on the house. So Jehoash, being 7 years old, we'll just jump in. He's been around for a couple of years. He realizes, man, the temple's looking bad. We need to do some repairs. We need a revitalization campaign or something. So he says, okay, all the money that's coming into the temple, let's use it for repairs. And the priests, you're in charge of repairs. Don't ever make the pastor in charge of it. Telling y'all that name. Well, no, there's a reason, because the pastor's got other things to worry about. And by his 23rd year, so by the time he's 30 years old, the temple's still not repaired. Okay? That could be when he's 23 years old, but I take it as being he's been reigning 23 years. So, yeah, 30 years old, and the temple is still not looking very good. Therefore, King Jehoash summoned the priest Jehoiada with the other priests and said to them, why are not? Now, therefore, do not accept any more silver from your donors, but hand it over to the repair of the house. So since the priest didn't do it, the king's going to take charge. So the priest agreed that they would neither accept more silver from the people nor repair. So the priests are handing over the responsibility for repairing the temple to the king.
Have priests been pocketing this all for themselves?
They've been using it for what they always did. They didn't change. Then the priest Jehoiada took a chest, made a hole in its lid, and set it beside the altar on the right side as one entered the house of the Lord. 2 Kings 12:9. And we're going to be skipping, we're going to be mixing up verses now too. Okay. So just giving you a heads up. So I'm gonna be jumping back and forth between Second Kings 12 and Second Chronicles 24, like a verse at a time. So just give it, okay? So he makes a little offering chest kind of thing. Second Chronicles 24:9, proclamation was made throughout Judah and Jerusalem to bring in for the Lord the tax that Moses, the servant of God, laid on Israel in the wilderness. Now, that was a census tax. That's that census tax that we're talking about. And today that would be equivalent to about 14 cents per person. Okay. So 2 Kings 12:9b, the priest who guarded the threshold put in it all the silver that was brought into the house of the Lord. So they took all that money that they had been using and they gave it over to them. Verse 10 of 2 Chronicles 24. All the leaders and all the people rejoiced and brought their packs and dropped it into the chest. Whenever they back to 2 Kings 12, verse 10. Whenever they saw that there was a great deal of silver in the chest, the king's secretary and the high priest went up, cast the silver that was found in the house of the Lord into ingots, and counted it. They gave the silver that was weighed out into the hands of the workers who had oversight of the house. So he has hired construction workers or contractors. Then they paid it out to the carpenters and the builders who worked on the house of the Lord, to the masons and the stone cutters, as well as to buy timber and quarried stone for making repairs on the house of the Lord, as well as for any outlay for repairs of the house. You see who can do the work and who can't. But for the house of the Lord, no basins of silver, snuffers, bowls, trumpets, or any vessels of gold or of silver were made from the silver that was brought into the house of the Lord. So now that answers your question as to what they were using the funds originally. For that was given to the workers who were repairing the house of the Lord with it. We're 2 Kings 12. They did not ask an accounting for those whose hands they delivered the silver to pay out to the workers, for they dealt honestly. That's funny that the writer would put that there after just telling that the priest didn't do the work. So it's almost like we're dealing with them honestly. Okay, now we're in 2 Chronicles 24, all right, verse 13. Okay. For those following along. So those who were engaged in the work labored, and the repairing went forward into their hands. They restored the house of God to its proper condition and strengthened. When they had finished, they brought the rest of the silver, so there were left over, to the king in Jehoiada, and with it were made utensils for the house of the Lord. So now they're back to doing that. Utensils for the service and for the burnt offerings, the ladles and vessels of gold and silver. They offered burnt offerings in the house of the Lord regularly all the days of Jehoiada. All the days of Jehoiada. What do you think that is a premonition of? Well, well, he's going to die. That's a given. Sooner rather than later, unfortunately. The silver from the guilt offerings and the silver from the sin offerings was not brought into the house. Okay. Man, that went quick. You know, when I do these things, I never can tell how. I go based on the number of verses that I've used. A lot. So next week, we've got the apostasy of Joash. Ooh, now Joash, remember it when he started to reign, said he did good, but he didn't tear down the high places. The death of Jehu, that's in the north. Jehoash reigns over Israel, that's Joash's. Jehoash reigns over Israel, that's Jehoahaz's. Hazael threatens Jerusalem. Y'all remember Hazael? Hazael took over for Ben-Hadad when he killed him, by placing that wettened pillowcase over his head. The death of Joash. Now you notice I ended to that, which tells me that that should tell you that Hazael is the cause of the death of Joash, and that would be Jehoash. Joash and Jehoash. I know it's weird because you've got 2 Kings and 2 Chronicles, and they just cannot keep the same names. It'd be like Michael and Mike. That's what they're saying. King Michael, King Mike. Yeah. And then we get the death of Elisha. Oh, that's going to be a sad. And Israel recaptures cities from Aram. Now remember, Hazael was in charge of Aram at that point. So Israel, the north, is able to take some things back. Amaziah reigns over Judah. There's another Amaziah. Okay, that would be the son of Joash, or of Joash. Of the south. Because there's a Joash in the north too. I told you, I need to bring out that sheet again, and give it to y'all, so y'all can tell exactly who's where and where we're at.
Okay, by now.
And Amaziah is known by one thing, the slaughter of humans. And Israel defeats Judah. Ooh! So after all this time, they go to war with each other. They've had skirmishes, but Israel defeats Judah. It's sad. It's bad. It's a bad time.
Why do you figure Elisha wasn't taken up by a whirlwind?
Well, I don't have an answer for it. Why is always the hardest question to answer?
Okay.
Because it,
How come?
because it implies. Well, I'm just saying how come is the same. I'm just saying it implies intent. Whenever we ask why, you're asking what was someone's intention. And it's hard to establish what someone's intention was because you're not them. They know why, but you don't know why necessarily.
Especially God.
Well, God knows.
Yeah.
I know.
We don't know God's intention. That's what he's.
Oh, well,
So
yes.
wasn't it Elisha's grave that somebody else was buried in, that somebody fell in and got something covered up? Well,
Came back on their resurrected.
yeah, wasn't Elisha buried? Somebody buried somebody in
You're
it.
jumping ahead, but yes, somebody touches his bones.
Yeah. So it's. Okay.
Yeah, we get into that next week. You're jumping ahead. I'm the only one allowed to get spoiler alerts. So yeah, as when it comes back to God's intent, we know one of God's intentions. And that's for good now.
Yeah.
Okay. If God intends things for good, they may seem evil to us that that we don't understand why, but it's intended for good. All things work together good to them of God, and all those who are called according to His purpose. That's in the New Testament. In the Old Testament, we get Joseph being thrown into slavery by his brothers, and it being said, Joseph telling them, you sold me into slavery. You intended evil. God meant it for good. So we both get an Old Testament and a New Testament understanding. God's intent is for good. It's we who turn it on. But God's intention is still good, and it will eventually turn out good.
Good.
Yeah, good. Any other questions? We got a lot of time.
A lot of time.
We got at least 5 minutes, and there is no choir today, so the choir members in this room, everybody else is
Did our secret place going?
your what?
Secret place?
Yeah, it should be out on the thingy.
Wasn't last week.
Put it down. Where did I put it?
Did we look last week?
Yeah.
What's our secret place?
It's like a daily bread.
Devotional.
I'll look again. I know it came in. I know I took it out of the packaging. I'm pretty sure I put it out. Know exactly where I put it out. I'm pretty sure
I looked in the office last week. I didn't see it anywhere. And I
It's
looked.
because it came in before then.
Where would it have been?
I will tell you the places I typically put things are either out on that table in the gathering space by the doors
Or in this-
or in the narthex.
Yeah.
I sure do
Now,
hope
they
it's
may
not-
be, what's that?
I sure do hope it's not like my paper.
It just disappears.
Yeah.
It doesn't measure up, that's why.
Oh.
It could be over by the couches, but I don't think I'll look and find out. Okay. Well, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pray for me because not in my preaching, but I'm bringing you special music.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,